Hello, all my little sinners and saints. We're going to watch a couple videos, somewhat PowerPoint, and let's start. This is the Philadelphia experiment.
This is Bill now speaking. Welcome to the truth about the Philadelphia experiment. We're about to experience an amazing story. It's a story that I've spent many years investigating. I like to call this part of the presentation the interview. It was filmed in 1989, but that doesn't make it any less relevant. In fact, it's become more relevant. A number of other witnesses have come forward since that time to verify the information that you'll see here. The interview comprises two stories that are intertwined: the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk Project. The Philadelphia experiment had several purposes. It began as a World War II Navy project to demagnetize ships against a new type of German mine that was attracted to the magnetized metal of vessels. The degaussing of ships tended to be an arduous process in those days, and it involved a stay in dry dock, and most of the electronic equipment on board a ship had to be removed while it was being degaussed. This was a method that was really impractical for wartime use. The creation of a strong field of some type that could be controlled to instantly demagnetize ships proved to be a much better idea. Each ship could be provided with the necessary equipment that would be carried on board at all times, so that the degaussing process could take place at any time. Although the degaussing aspect of the Philadelphia experiment was promising and important, it was in no way the end game. The second and more important goal of the Philadelphia experiment was to make Navy ships invisible to radar. It's no secret that the Germans were developing powerful radar systems in those days that could track ships from a great distance. In fact, by 1942, plans were already underway to equip new German multi-purpose aircraft with radar-guided bombs. Information obtained after the war proved this fact to be true. The scientists and engineers that developed the technology for the Philadelphia experiment saw the degaussing work as a way to get their feet in the door with the military. They had ideas that went far beyond degaussing and radar invisibility, but the demagnetizing project allowed them access to government officials and government money. With a potential price tag of millions of dollars for what they really had in mind, they needed time to explain and prove their ideas to the military. The Navy was the perfect start. President Franklin Roosevelt had been Assistant Secretary of the Navy under President Woodrow Wilson and was appointed to that position in 1913. Now, as president, he was known to have a great deal of respect and affection for the Navy. He'd certainly be interested in anything that would help military vessels evade U-boats and enemy ships. You'll hear more about the history of the experiment during the interview, but the end game for the scientists and engineers involved was complete invisibility and more.
All right, well, we're here tonight. We have with us Mr. Miller, who is from the Eldridge from Philadelphia experiment. The other fellow that went back to 43. We also have with us Mr. Campbell, who is also of the Eldridge. Who are the craziest people in the world. Now, they survived. At the auspices of the, what's it, Phildephia?
Oh, yeah,
Phildephia brothers.
Right.
We're here in this nice, beautiful hole in Blue Point. This whole has to be at least $4 million.
I hope so.
Three-quarter, whatever. And I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Why don't you start with what Montauk was about, how it tied into Philadelphia experiment?
A brief synopsis, maybe, of the.
Okay, first of all, I got to find the PowerPoint.
You want to start with Philadelphia and then go with
How it ties in.
I first have to find the PowerPoint. I'm going to plug this PowerPoint. Start up the paper. Yeah, plug it. All right, way back when. Let's start with the Phoenix Project. Phoenix Project is a carry-on from the Philadelphia experiment. It was that was a solo project that the Navy did back in the 30s and 40s, attempting to make a battleship in this area. They wanted to make an aircraft carrier. They threw the switch one eventful day, and the ship went into hyperspace. There was all sorts of problems with people on the boat. Lady said the thing's a huge failure, it's a huge success, but it's also a huge failure, and they shelved it. In about 47, it was decided, the government can't leave this thing alone. They got a wild effect that they wanted to study. So in 47, they reopened it and started up with what we came later to know as the Phoenix Project. It was originally the Rainbow Project. It was moved to Brookhaven National Laboratories. And Dr. Von Neumann and all his associates, this was long before any of us were involved in it, started to replicate this thing. Out of the Phoenix One, the early project, came the stealth technology, which I cannot talk about. Either of these two guys will talk about the stealth technology, but I cannot talk about it because of my job. And also came out all sorts of energetic living toys, such as radio sounds. What is a radio sound? Well, if you remember all back when we were kids, we saw these little white plastic boxes that had a white flower hanging down on it, that they connected to a little red parachute, filled up a balloon with helium, connected the whole thing up in the atmosphere. The government told us, hey, this thing is a weather data package. It has a temperature sensor, has a humidity sensor, and it has a pressure sensor in it. And this thing will ultimately transmit temperature data, humidity data, temperature data, reference data. And the switching was controlled by the barometric pressure at the height of what they call the barrel switch. This thing used a very unusual type of pulse modulation. In most cases, they use a CW, continuous wave oscillator, and pulse the thing off. The pulse was pulsing it off. This turned out to be a very efficient conversion of electrical energy to etheric energy. Now, I very recently started collecting radio sounds. I don't know why, I did. I walked in with a radio sound, and one of the associates at Spacetime Laboratory says,
and a few others. The whole thing was basically a civilian project run by the Nazis with a U.S. government surveillance, you might say. The intelligence community knew what was going on. CIA monitored everything, as well as probably did well other government intelligence agencies. The field of players, if you will, those who actually operated on the base, was small, 30 to 50. And the funding was entirely private. At a very later stage, after the whole thing was over, then after 83, there was some investigation started by a certain senator from Arizona, I think his name was Phildephia. They couldn't find any trace of government funding, no government oversight committees, no payments of money of any kind, no appropriations, nothing. They went absolutely bananas trying to figure out how a project of that magnitude and that scope could have been funded when there was no government money.
even the senator would like to know.
That's right. The girl was Air Force. He was an Air Force colonel.
How'd you get Air Force personnel with someone to a derelict base?
Right. Broad had his office in the Pentagon. I found that out through other connections. And he was the basic director through the whole of Phoenix 2 and 3. There were actually two directors. They had the so-called psychic metaphysical director, which was Pruitt, and they had a hardware electronics director, who was originally Dr. Van Neumann. And after he left, Dr. Winterman took over, German Enterman from Germany. And they also had an electronics expert who, through most of the period of time, was a Dr. Matthew Lee Zarrett, who came in with Winter von Braun in 46. But we had a study command, strangely enough, in New York Algebra Engineering in New Jersey, was my college prof there. And I didn't know a thing about his connections or his background, whether he had come from Germany. Lo and behold, he turns up there. Private funding all the way until, well, actually 100%, until it was over, there was still private funding through ITT.
Awesome. Yeah.
Government never spent a cent
And the
on
gold, I think, ran until about 78.
it. Approximately that.
Got heavily in about 78, 79.
One of the reasons why they ran out of money was the fact that there was not eventually not one base, but 25. The whole stage bases, 25 of them were utilized for the same program. They were running in parallel. And eventually they shut down, and so in the end, I believe, that was the info we had, is there were only 3 still operational, they were tied together by satellite.
But they shut down quite late in the program.
How recently were they operating? When did they finally shut down?
The last of them shut down August 12, 1983.
That was one thing.
And that was Montauk. They went down and shut the other 2 or whatever that were still operating with it by a satellite down. So
When Montauk went down, they had to go down because that's where they got their zero time.
correct.
That's where Montauk.
Montauk was the key station.
So they went out and went down. All right, so it was,
But you asked, the question was asked, what about some of the mind effects? I'll try to answer that and say what I recall of the program, because I was part of it also.
There's a story that goes on with it. It's sort of long and bulky, but somehow it comes up that indeed.
oh, right.
Whatever this person who created this theater or whatever Is that one of you?
I don't know if these guys want to say.
Well, information, there is a photograph that was taken just on a routine basis out in Montauk that was presented in the first lecture, Preston in 85, 6, Chicago, USBA conference. There were random photos taken, and one of the gentlemen from Situ, is that correct? Yeah. Which, what is this? What does that stand for?
Society for the Investigation of Industry.
He looked at a photograph and said there's something there unusual. There was a blow up of it, and there was a sort of what's been categorized as sort of like a Bigfoot. What I see on that is myself, as an image of myself riding the back of it. How much, I'm very startled with the photograph for sure. It does seem to have a connection with me, even though I try to discredit.
This isn't one of these ones. Yeah, it's like,
It's in the collection charge.
it's in the size, very small.
This would be very similar,
Right, a faint image.
so this would be very similar to the quote bin or the shadow or whatever
Yeah.
technological technique you want to use.
Yeah, just an add on here. Preston spoke of a 30-foot type creature. There are a number of images associated. 30 feet is well, by all means could very well be correct. 9 feet, 10 feet, depending which image is considered.
Also, perhaps how scared the individual was and saw it.
Well, some of
These
the
tales
marks,
grow.
some of the marks on the buildings are up quite high. They
Yeah.
had to be like 30, they should be at least 25 feet
I would say
On the
at least
outside
50,
inside.
probably not.
outside.
So there's still this.
I've got outside, it was a technical,
Oh,
outside.
yeah. Was rolling free?
There's very similar appearance to one of the,
My reaction.
this is for idiots type thing.
But because I've done so much in this other function, still enough filter too, that I developed an interest in this, what you want to call this light, if you want to say, of metaphysics. And that was their downfall. Because it was that that made me conscious of what was going on at Montauk, was the source of these interfering signals. Was there interfering signals? They were found in my research and my work.
Was there any sense of all the experiences that you were doing, going in the future, et cetera, all of that, but there was some real high.
This is my Dodge Caravan before the front got broken. Backed up to the main door in the back of the big building. This is the main radar building. This really, we should go to this picture later. That's essentially what it is.
All I know is what I got here, I don't know what the deal is.
All right, let's go to the next picture. It's out of focus. This is leaving the site. Of course, there's my car again. And the red building is one of the old leftover radar buildings that they didn't use. The round things, we don't know what the hell the round things were. And this is the street coming out. That's the back end of the main antenna. This thing is an antenna which is roughly 300 foot by 200 foot. And that tower that goes this way, the main horn is mounting on. That's the omnidirectional antenna. The little thing on top is shaped like that is the IFF antenna. They didn't use the,
Just for the project?
this is the transmitter. You're looking at the transmitter. Like anyone that has any sensitivity. This is a full shot of the building. Anybody that has any sensitivity can probably feel the energies coming off this picture.
This is a fallen tower or what?
That's an extra tower.
We have a pointer for him, so pointer, something, a stick or something.
Oh, yes, we have a,
Oh, okay.
Here it is. So the pointer comes. It's gonna be all right. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors in this structure. Each one is about 100 foot square.
The transmitter?
This is the transmitter building. Transmitter was on this floor and this floor. This was the antenna controller. All these ducts here are cooling for the transmitter.
that's just sitting there open?
Yep.
Looking for lawsuits.
Yep.
Go ahead.
This is another picture, another site, another picture of the building with the antenna. Again, you can see doors can look out. This is all open. We know it was open as of September. Yep. This is a shop. This is just essentially background. Let's keep going. This is another one of those round structures. What they did with these in the project, if anything, we don't know. They didn't look maintained. You can see it's all rusted over here, here, but you can see that other building was maintained. This was like about 85, these pictures were taken. Okay. This is a shot from the roof looking up at the antenna. This is a catwalk. People walk through. You get an idea of the massive size of this thing.
The antenna?
This is the antenna, transmitting antenna. This is shot out over, that's the ocean, from the roof of the building.
Change it.
This is the group. This person should be familiar. That person should be familiar. This is my friend Jeff that comes up from Maryland. That's the guy that plays Rambo running around the woods.
Now those buildings in the back,
That's two of those round buildings. You can see they haven't been maintained. Look at the doors here.
did you go inside of them?
Yeah.
You couldn't tell what it was all about?
There isn't anything in them. Nothing in them. Those are cleaned up.
Those buildings you can still walk in now?
If they haven't boarded up, sure. I don't know. This is a picture of what they call omnidirectional antenna. This is what the antenna they use. In fact, if you look, you see all the wires feeding in, all the coax cables feeding in. This they use to send out a signal, but we believe they use this more for picking up signals. This will pick up a return from the person that they were targeting. This has one huge cable that goes up to it and a bunch of little cables for receivers. And they control the different dipoles on this. Okay, let's go. This is a general shot of the antenna. That's the gain horn. See, they were first focusing this so the signal will go in, bounce off, come out. But they finally realized that they didn't want the Hertz signal to reflect it, so they positioned it so the gain horn pointed right at the subject. That's the way they eventually developed this thing so it worked right.
Outside.
Outside.
Yeah, I think it was outside.
The subject was in another building that was downrange.
The focal point was at that building.
This is a distance view of the thing. You can get an idea how massive it is.
What is the dimension for us?
300 feet by 200, 150 feet. 100 feet
125
this way.
tons for the antenna and 125 tons for the control mechanism.
That's the pedestal.
125 tons each.
This weighs 125 tons, and this is about 200 tons.
Did you help design this transmission antenna?
No, that was part of the Sage. The white dot shot. But this is interesting. This is essentially the main building. This is a transmitter building. This is a control center where all the computers were, and this was offices.
Where was the subject?
Down the hill that way.
Okay, another building there.
Now those buildings are still there? Are they
Oh, yes.
open?
This one is open. I'm told this one is open and this one is open. The powerhouse is open. This is a distance shot. You're 2 miles away here from the building. Montauk Highway. Same thing. You're 2 miles away here. I don't know what that is. Oh yeah, you're further away. This is now this is in the town still. This is like about 5 miles away here. That's the building.
What about this?
This building here is where they had the subject. This is how many people know what the planetary grid is?
No. Yeah.
This is one of the cross points of the grid. You stand here, you'll feel the grid.
And it's still there?
Yep.
That's not a light.
And if we have the right picture, you'll see they arranged the buildings around the cross point like the Indians arrange mounds of rock around the cross points. These buildings tune the cross point. But they focused, if I remember, on that building, is where they had the subject. You notice these buildings are Duncan verified it. That's where he was. Duncan has a tendency to flip when he sees stuff like this. Okay, let's go to the next one. That's me. Standing next to the radar site 5 miles away. And you see my welding glasses. Yes. Another shot. You can go on. That's extraneous.
Do these power lines go straight to that
Yep.
location?
They go straight to that
All they
location.
are is carry those by now.
Right here, you can see the high tension lines.
Are they still active?
Oh, yeah. Those are what's supplying the point. Okay.
You know, they act.
Here's a picture of the pedestal. These are motors. 4 of them. The motors are going today.
This is on the roof.
This is on the roof.
Motors are gone?
Yeah, someone took the motors. How? I don't know.
How they got them down, right?
Oh, that's
But they pushed them off a lot of crash. There'd be big crevices in the ground. We hadn't heard of any crevices. Train freaks may have taken these. These are the same motors that run the big locomotives. This is a picture of the gain horn. This is the thing. This is about the size of my Volkswagen Rabbit at the time. This is what actually sent the signal out. It went out like this. 4-way guy went down the catwalk and went into the building.
Look at it sideways.
Yeah. Oh, there's the UFO landing pad.
That was a landing pad, right?
What is that?
That's the only one of these around.
You know,
3 foot. This
part of the equipment that was, that had to be destroyed, or is it just?
No, they left this behind. Let's go on. This is to fully assemble with all the magnets on it. This thing is about 6 foot tall from here to here.
That would never be used for radar, is that correct?
They originally used it for radar. This was long distance radar. But then they rebuilt it. Another shot of the Ampletron. I never noticed a red door before. Is Al here?
Yeah, I'm here.
You ever noticed a red door?
No.
Something funny going on.
When we were in there, part of it was red. And I don't recall what parts.
This is a close up of the Ampletron.
Look at the walls in the back, you can see the marks.
This is some of the Zeppelin torch marks where they cut their waveguides to stop it. This is the power transformer. This thing probably is about 12 tons. This is the type of thing I tell Duncan move. He grunts, he groans a little, he moves it.
Lungo-like beams.
This is a Firetron. This is the main pulse modulator. They use 4 of these things. This is about 2.5 foot tall. This tube, and about 6 inches in diameter. And then 4 of these in parallel to fire off the pulse forming network.
That was the sitting there, was it?
Yeah.
I hope you got it.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Well, this is one of the ones that's broken. I got complete ones. You know,
These are made in the 50s?
These particular ones were made in the 80s, but they were designed in the 50s. That's 500 Gauss magnet. That's the plate on one of the magnets you go on. That doesn't mean a hell of a lot.
Except for the stamp stereo.
Yeah, what else? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that's it.
Wonder where the flat building is.
What?
Wonder where the flat building is.
It might have been some of the others. I got some more here if you want to look at.
It's up to you guys.
But they're all
If you want to run through quick, go ahead.
I didn't see it.
There was also a better picture showing the torch marks.
15. I'll do it.
Okay. It's up to you guys.
Let's do it. Okay.
You want to do it? Go through quick. That same thing. Go on. Another shot of the spoil, of the vortex, of the cross pointer. So same thing.
Stop. Okay, you back up one?
Yeah.
Back up, what you have there, one, two. Doing that one, the different time period of day. The energetics of that picture as opposed to the next one is very different.
Maybe another sensor can pick that up.
As in higher, lower, better, worse, or just different?
Different random.
Oops.
Another picture of the magnetron.
You're gonna get a lot of them.
Yeah, I know. James took loads of those.
What you want?
Same thing. Same thing. Go on. Go on.
Especially when it's got it loaded.
I know. That's another shot of the power transformer.
Those exclude.
No. Those things provide a 20 kV. Another shot. That's the same thing. Go on.
The torch marks which are on this type.
Yeah. Same thing. Go on. You say lots of those. Okay. Jump out there. Okay, this is a closer shot on the antenna, but not close enough. You can see all the cables going in this box on the bottom. They're doing phased array work with this thing. You see cables running up it. These are driving. This is a series of dipoles. These got a close up of this somewhere in there. Where are they? Two.
What did they, yeah, I guess that's.
That's the same thing.
Important because this led into a parallel project, the degaussing project of the Navy, where they developed the so-called degaussing cables to explode the magnetic mines at a distance quite safe, quite far away from the ship. Normally, they'd be triggered by the magnetic flux of the ship's general mass, which would concentrate flux lines at a certain point that would trip the mechanism, and of course, ideally, the magnetic mine would be tripped under the hull, and of course, blow the ship to kingdom come. It provided a strong, powerful magnetic field that would trip the mine's sensing mechanisms at a safe distance and would be harmlessly exploded. So they could put in 2 huge generators. And the reason why they had to design the equipment to the ship was the fact that a destroyer escort is not a very large ship. It's about 1,500 tons, properly equipped. The later figure said 1,900 dry weight was agreements between both the Greek records and the American records of 1,240 tons dry. It's a rather small destroyer. It only had 2 gun turrets. So to fit 2 huge generators, the motor drive system, all the RF equipment, and 4 transmitters on this thing, it took a lot of design effort, actually from the beginning, to know where you're going to fit this up. You don't throw it on this ship midstream after it's built. So October came down the ways, and we went into dry dock, put equipment on board, and before they did this, they decided they needed a special test crew. Selected about 33 people, all volunteers, trained them up in Connecticut, about September to December of 42, and they graduated, and the picture still exists of the graduation class. And he was ahead of the class with our father. This picture there with naval uniform and cap, scrambled eggs, and the whole bit. Still don't know how he got involved in this, but he could have transferred between the Navy and the Coast Guard, because there is a letter of citation still in the records, which Duncan has had, I believe, I don't know, I think he still has it, I've seen it. The letter of citation from the Coast Guard for assistance during the wartime period, meritorious assistance for during the war for the Coast Guard, et cetera, et cetera. And this was the Coast Guard Academy program where this crew was trained. So they came back to Philadelphia, and the war continued. Equipment was outfitted, and they started after the ship was not seaworthy, but actually out of dry dock, sitting at the dockside of the Philadelphia Naval Yard. A long series of tests began, a lot of modification equipment. Along about March of 42, Van Neumann started to shake a little and became concerned that maybe there's a personnel problem. He started to agree with it because Duncan and myself were both pounding on him, saying, there's going to be a personal problem. You can't turn the switch on. You're going to possibly kill people. Tesla said so. Well, we mentioned the Tesla's name. He got very upset. Flew in flying to a rage, eventually got over it. But he agreed, yeah, maybe there is a problem. What do we do about it? He decided to put in a 3rd generator and modify the system, and at that point he still had time to do it. So he ordered and had installed a 3rd generator along about May of 43, and it never worked right. It wouldn't sync with the other 2. The other 2 generators in that area were driven off a single motor and a gearbox, right-angle gearbox drive with special electronics to synchronize the generators, of course, with a motor of about 750 horsepower and a gigantic gearbox is required. Those gearboxes were sloppy. You could not mechanically synchronize the generators. They had to be an absolute electrical sync, so that was accomplished by other synchronizing means with special cabinets. There's another man whom I know of who designed that equipment. And he's still alive, too. Anyway, the 3rd generator never worked right. Finally, it went out of control one day and zapped one of the individuals assigned to us as a technician, a Navy man, first-class specialist. He was laid out completely unconscious in a coma. We hauled him off to the hospital. He recovered 4 months later, was never part of the project. So Van Neumann finally said, all right, that thing's no good. Hold out. Back to the original design. On this went. Finally had the sea trial for the ship about mid-June. July 1, they decided to go into the final series of tests and preparation. So by July 20th of 43, they decided, well, I guess it's ready, and they got tests. So they decided 22 July, got the whole crew together, selected about 12 individuals, plus the 2 of us who were in the control room to operate all the equipment. There's another man who was a radio operator who was, I believe, still alive today. I've not been able to talk with him. So the fateful hour came. They ran the ship out into the harbor, stopped the engines. They did not drop anchor because it had to be floating free as it would be normally in service. And they could not ground the ship for the anchors. So it came to a stop. The orders came via radio, fire up, and go through the procedures, in which we did. The ship became invisible optically as well as radar. And it lasted about 15-20 minutes. And I said, okay, shut it off. Bring the ship back to dock, to the dockside berth, which was down by the crew. They boarded it to expect it, and they found out there were problems. So a lot of people on that ship were thoroughly disoriented, sick, nauseous, and otherwise not with it. No one was dead, no one was injured as such physically, but the mind effects were severe, both physiological and psychological. Navy said, okay, pull the crew off. What's wrong? Back to Dr. Van Neumann. He says, I don't know, but I'll find out. So we started looking into this. He finally decided he needed more time to study it. He said to the Navy, he says, this is going to take more time to look at. And he says, you have a drop-dead deadline of the 12th of August, 1943 to get this experiment completed, otherwise forget it. And he says, that isn't enough time. He says, that's your deadline. Well, we heard that. I and Duncan, or particularly I, went we went up the line. We went to Elbow and said, what's this all about? He said, that's the orders I was given. He said, where did they come from? He says, I don't know, but I'll find out. We went all the way up to the CNO. Which didn't make sense because the Chief of Naval Operations normally doesn't concern himself with that kind of detail in the research program. He's concerned with the operation of the war. But of course, at the same time, there was the other project called the Atomic Bomb Project, Manhattan Project, as was known, which was vying with this as a secret weapon for the war. So as things went on, there were night and day operations to get this equipment in order. Van Neumann made changes because the Navy finally decided they don't want optical invisibility, they want radar invisibility only. At that time, we didn't have inertial guidance systems. We didn't have long-range shoreline worldwide. And of course, if you didn't have radar to see where an adjacent ship was, you better be able to see it physically. Otherwise, in a fleet, you might ram each other and see it nicely. So that was the orders. He modified the equipment. On the 12th of August, rather shaking as we went out into our station. We knew things were wrong. And well, we followed orders. The orders were appropriate time, turn on the equipment, which we did. About 60 or 70 seconds, everything looked good.
Stop. Stuff right here, trash.
Yep.
What's wrong?
I tried to put stuff back in there somewhat neatly. Thank you, by the way. There's 6 shots in here.
Yeah.
Why did it say 4?
I told him 6. Yes.
Can you bring something to put over this so that it don't get a hair in it? And I don't know, babe. I don't feel well.
I gotta run the store and get your cigarettes. I gotta give me a loofah. Mine's
You get me
shitty.
one because I've got
Learn to wash properly.
I could shoot me up the rest of it.
You push. Took you out, take you.
You stop.
Never.
I don't even know what this is. I'm gonna do my homework tonight. There's this shit I wanna fucking do. And just set those things back in there and the things, but
No, put it on.
hand me get this out of the way or I'll throw it away. Push that over here so I can see what I wanna show because there's the end on here. One of the pros.
I'll go get you a 10-12 and then I'm gonna run off to the stores.
Tinfoil.
What?
Tinfoil.
Cover that up.
Oh. Take it out of the room. I want people to think we're nakeds. That's all I need. So I see this in the background. And fucking. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. You've done a better job at this 12.
I know. I'm not dealing with fucking bullshit tomorrow because everything was good, and then I don't even know what the fuck happened. And these motherfuckers started wanting to. I know why, but it's like buddy starts shit to get fucking views,
Yeah.
and then I end up fighting with people. And he wants to sit there for 5 hours so he can get his fucking time in, and fucking here I sit with not a motherfucking thing.
Yeah. Get off that shit. Get away from me. I'll straight on your phone still. All right, I'll be back.
I need to. Where's the charger? Wire? Please, God. Oh, I didn't lose it again.
Oh my God.
Oh my Lord.
You're the one who said you found it somewhere under there.
I know, but what did I do with it?
Yeah, it's in your drawers. That's right.
I know, but I don't think I put it back in the drawer.
Well, right. I'll be back.
Please get that stuff up when you get back.
I will. I'm going to trash bag.
They got the radar invisibility. The ship outline could be seen hazily, but still more or less visible. Then, as memory serves, and as the observers said later, there's a flash of light, a blue flash, and the ship just disappeared. Wasn't seen anymore, no outline of water, no hull, nothing. No radio communication, gone for about 3 hours. When it came back, they knew immediately something was wrong because one of the masts, the principal radio mast, which had been designed by T. Townsend Brown, along with some of the transmitter equipment and modifications, was broken. There was some superstructure damage, and they couldn't get any radio communications, and they couldn't get the ship to over, so they went out and boarded it, and that's when they found the real extent of the problem. There were 4 men embedded in the decks, 2 in the steel decks on top, 2 in the bulkhead walls, and the 5th man had his hand jammed in the steel of the wall. He lived because he could cut his hand off and give him an artificial hand. People disoriented. Reports were some were floating around and finally got their feet on the ground. Others floated away and disappeared. The crew on the second test was a little larger than the first. And a number who were just plain totally insane. So the Navy, so get that ship back in here, get the crew off. They held 4 days worth of meetings. What's wrong? What do we do now? And this, of course, involved all the top brass, plus Van Neumann, plus the scientists. They couldn't come to any real conclusions as to what was wrong or what to do. And eventually decided there would be one more test in the Eldridge, and there would be a dry run again like the original one. No personnel. Rebuilt the equipment. They would run it by remote cables, about 1,000 foot of cable from adjacent ship. No generators on the ship. Everything on the ship as it was originally for the second test. But they would use the crew to take it out into the outer harbor at night, and then remove the crew and control the equipment remotely, which they did in late October. And same results in essence, but no crew to be damaged. The ship disappeared for about 20 minutes, came back. A lot of equipment was missing, 2 transmitter cabinets, 1 generator. Everything in the control room was a burned out shambles, even though nobody was there. The 1 cabinet with the 0 time reference generator was still intact. The Navy at that point just said, that's it, wipe our hands of it, stripped the ship, re-outfitted it so we go to sea, and of course it had already been christened and properly commissioned with its regular officer, which is of record. And sometime in the fall it was ready and went to sea, and the log, which was later recovered by the Greeks after the war was over, and the Eldridge, which was on in the mothballs in 1946, was transferred to the Greek Navy in 1951. The log had all the pages missing prior to January 144. So the problem, and the question was, what really happened? What went wrong? Now, this is where, at that time, we didn't know what was going on. But that is after the first test, we didn't see anything wrong. After the second test, we knew what was going on. That is, he and I did, because what happened was very, very bizarre. The ship disappeared into hyperspace. The important point was there was another experiment going on at the same time, and that was the Phoenix Project, which 12 August 1983 was exactly 40 years to the day later. And what's important about this is the fact that it was 40-year separation exactly, actually a multiple of 20 years. Work done since then, or perhaps during that period and ongoing, has shown that, like humans who have a biorhythm, the Earth has a biorhythm. And the Earth's biorhythms peak out, 4 of them, 20 years to the day, plus or minus maybe half a day, every 20 years on August 12th, 1943, 63, 83, 2003, whatever. And it just happened to peak, or shall we say, maybe it just happened, maybe it was arranged this way. The August test in 43, August 12th, coincided with the station running August 12th, 83, and provided an additional function, which provided the connecting link through the Earth's fields for the 2 experiments to lock up in hyperspace. The ship was pulled into hyperspace completely. The only way it could be returned was we decided, he and I, we couldn't control the ship. We knew something was drastically wrong. We tried to shut the equipment off. We couldn't. Tried pulling handles and everything. Nothing would yield. We just got half electrocuted. We finally decided, let's get out of here. Well, where do we go? We jump over the side, land in the bay, get away from this thing. Well, we jumped overboard, and we didn't land in the bay. We wound up through a time tunnel and wound up standing on dry ground at Montauk in 1983, August 12th at night. Of course, we were found very quickly. We were taken downstairs. Van Neumann greeted us. Of course, he knew us. He knew we were coming. The thing was a bit of a shock because here we were just working with Van Neumann 43, who was a young man essentially, and here we see Van Neumann 83, an old man. Knew we were coming, knew what it was all about. I said, gentlemen, we have a problem. He said, we have a lockup through hyperspace. And he said, we knew this was going to happen because I had the records. He said, I've lived with this 40 years waiting for this day, so to speak. He says, we can't shut this thing down because the Eldridge is the source of the power running this thing from the other end. It's in hyperspace. He said, you guys have to go back and shut the thing off. He said, we know you did, the records say so, but of course you haven't done it yet, but you have to go back and shut it off. So he off any way you can, destroy it physically if you have to, which is, of course, what we did. We went back to the Eldridge. They had, of course, the time capability to send us back directly to that spot and location, quite aside from the movie and what it said. We went back, we took out the axis and just started putting cables right and left till the generators shut down and the equipment was off. We smashed two banks, we smashed equipment, we cut cables, we cut everything in sight. Generators went down, the ship returned to its original point in space and time about 3 hours later. And of course, the Navy found what was there. I remained with the ship, he went back to 83. Begins another part of the story, but from that point on, 43 on, Van Neumann in 43 didn't know what had happened except what I told him. He didn't believe it. But he had equipment which enabled myself to go back and forth between 43 and 83. He had another set of equipment in the labs, which actually was the early equipment, which was a prototype. And he had modified it, which the Navy didn't know at that time, to be a full-blown time travel machine. 43. And 43, correct. See, the Germans also were working on the time travel project, and they had it working in 45 just before the war ended in Germany. This is also a matter of record.
Okay, let me pull up some more stuff. If I can get this minimized. If you want, I can leave the link down to that one completely. The whole video, if you want to watch it, it's honestly, it irked me a little bit. So, and plus, I don't know what's the rights on shit. So, fuck it. Okay, this is a list of names 1942 to 1945, their rank, the last name, their first name, hometown, state, and they're remembered by email, whatever that was on the USS. I can't believe I can't fucking pronounce that. This is what I get for making fun of stupid's ass. Eldridge. But I wanted to show you those. It might help if I would show you, huh? Okay, here we go. Arguing with dumb people like just mentally takes it out of me. I can't do that. This is a year, rank, last name, first name, hometown, home state, remember by email. If you want, I will leave the link in the description box. This is pretty much a condensed version of what that guy said. There's another video that I will leave the link down below. I'm kind of just pissing through this one because I've only got a shitload of stuff to do. Truth behind the experiment. Let's see, how long is the... Okay, we'll listen to this shit.
This is the truth behind World War II's creepy Philadelphia experiment. The Philadelphia experiment is one of the most grotesque military urban legends ever, and it has endured as an infamous World War II conspiracy theory. But is there any truth to it? Let's take a look. According to legend, on October 28, 1943, the USS Eldridge, a Cannon-class destroyer escort, was conducting top-secret experiments designed to win command of the oceans against the Axis powers. The rumor was that the government was creating technology that would render naval ships invisible to enemy radar, and there in the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, it was time to test it out. Witnesses claim an eerie green-blue glow surrounded the hull of the ship as her generators spun up, and then, suddenly, the Eldridge disappeared. The ship was then seen in Norfolk Naval Shipyard in Virginia before disappearing again and reappearing back in Philadelphia. The legend states that classified military documents reported that the Eldridge crew were affected by the events in disturbing ways. Some went insane. Others developed mysterious illness. But others still were said to have been fused together with the ship, still alive, but with limbs sealed to the metal. That'll give you nightmares. That's some Event Horizon SHT right there. Which is actually a convincing reason why the Eldridge's story gained so much momentum. In a 1994 article for the Journal of Scientific Exploration, Jacques F. Phildephia theorized that deep-seated imagery is key to planting a hoax into the minds of the masses and of the educated public. But before we break down what really happened that day, let's talk about the man behind the myth. Carl M. Allen, who went by the pseudonym Carlos Miguel Allende. In 1956, Allende sent a series of letters to Morris K. Jessup, author of the book, The Case for the UFO, in which he argued that unidentified flying objects merit further study. Jessup apparently included text about unified field theory because this is what Allende latched onto for his correspondences. In the 1950s, unified field theory, which has never been proven, attempted to merge Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity with electromagnetism. In fact, Allende claimed to have been taught by Einstein himself and could prove the unified field theory based on events he witnessed on October 28, 1943. Allende claimed that he saw the Eldridge disappear from the Philadelphia Naval Yard, and he further insisted that the United States military had conducted what he called the Phildephia experiment, and was trying to cover it up. Jessup was then contacted by the Navy's Office of Naval Research, which had received a package containing Jessup's book with annotations claiming that extraterrestrial technology allowed the US government to make breakthroughs in unified field theory. This is one of the weirdest details. The annotations were designed to look like they were written by 3 different authors, one maybe extraterrestrial. According to Vallet's article for the Journal of Scientific Exploration, Jessup became obsessed with Allen's revelations, and the disturbed researcher took his own life in 1959. It wasn't until 1980 that proof of Allen's forgery was made available. Inexplicably, 2 ONR officers had 127 copies of the annotated text printed and privately distributed by the military contractor Varro Manufacturing, giving wings to Allen's story long after Jessup's death. So what really happened aboard the USS Eldridge that day? According to Edward Dudgeon, who served in the U.S. Navy aboard the USS Engstrom, which was dry docked in the Philadelphia Naval Yard while the Eldridge was, both ships did have classified devices on board. They were neither invisibility cloaks nor teleportation drives designed by aliens, but instead, they scrambled the magnetic signatures of ships using the degaussing technique, which provided protection from magnetic torpedoes aboard U-boats. How stuff works suggested that the green glow reported by witnesses that day could be explained by an electric storm or St. Elmo's fire, which, in addition to being an American coming-of-age film starring the Brat Pack, is a weather phenomenon in which plasma is created in a strong electric field, giving off a bright glow, almost like fire. Finally, inland canals connected Norfolk to Philadelphia, allowing a ship to travel between the two in a few hours. The USS Eldridge was transferred to Greece in 1951 and sold for scrap during the 1990s, but Allen's hoax would live on in our effing nightmares forever. More articles from We Are the Mighty. 6 urban legends about Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Why Okinawa is the most haunted place in the military.
Okay, I'll also leave the link for this shit here. I'll leave the link for this because it's just the origins of what went on. It's pretty much covering the same thing over and over. And I think that we've already seen this one, not sure. I'll leave the link for that. And this ends my little Philadelphia experiment. I know it wasn't that great, but I've got a lot to put out, so leave comments, questions, concerns, complaints, and I appreciate you coming by. Thank you very much, and I will see you later. Bye.